Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to week 4, selected topics in law enforcement. First, I want to start off by talking about the discussion question, and then we're going to move on to chapters 10, 11, and 12 this week. Discussion 4. Detectives are portrayed by the media in television and movies to be the elite of the police department. Do you think this depiction is accurate? Why are investigators and detectives viewed as super cops? Well, all the television shows, everything that media portrays, a lot of them, majority of them, are all based off detectives. You don't see a whole lot of episodes of law enforcement TV shows starring the road patrol beat cop. There's not a whole lot of them around. They all want a means to an end. So they want the detective's point of view. Once they receive the case, they want to see how they investigate it, how they develop suspects, leads, and so forth, enough to make an arrest and that eventually prosecute and actually put someone behind bars and being held accountable for their crime. So it's a means to an end. It's in the criminal investigations division. It's detectives are normally the ones doing that. So the media portrays them, and that's all you see 90% of the time. So that's why detectives are viewed that way, and they have a lot of responsibility. If you have any questions on the discussion question, just let me know. That's pretty straightforward. It's in chapter 10, what detectives do. Kind of gives you the idea of how they've evolved, through time, and the new technology has really enhanced investigations and took it to a different level. With that being said, we'll start on chapter 10. We're on page 284. Also, we're going along with the PowerPoint. Investigations. Detective operations. What detectives do? Conduct investigations of past crimes, actually past, present, investigate after receiving incident reports, initial reports. So let's talk a little about what detectives do before we get started. There's two types of detectives. You have a persons crimes detective and you have a property crimes detective. A persons crime is what it says, crimes against another person. So if it's a battery, if it's a sex crime, if it's a crime involving person on person, it's usually categorized in persons crimes. Property crimes is crimes involving property or damaged property, like criminal mischief, burglary, grand theft auto. Those will be considered property crimes. You have detectives that work property crimes, you have detectives that work persons crimes. And sometimes they're broken down into major case division. A lot of your major case divisions may only work persons crimes. When I was a detective, I only worked persons crimes. Your homicides, your serious crimes, your sex bat, it's just person-on-person crimes. So it's broken down into two different categories. And detective work is not all glamorous. You spend about 80, 90% of your time behind a desk, writing reports or conducting interviews, running down leads. And you do a lot of that, behind your behind your computer at your desk. There's of course, you do have your share of field work. What I used to do is I would take 2 or 3 cases at a time, and I'd stay in one day and just go out and do all my field work and try to get it all done if I could in the course of a day, and then come back to my desk the next day, and then you have to write about everything you just did, all that investigative work out in the field, all the people you talked to, all them houses you went to, all them pawn shops you went to looking for stolen property. All that has to be documented in your police report. So you spend a lot of time writing police reports. Road patrol, the patrol officer responds out to, let's give a property crime example because that's probably the easier one. Road patrol officer, deputy on the street, is patrolling his zone. We talked about zones, and he gets a call for service. He reference to a burglary and a grand theft. So he deputy responds out there, makes contact with the victim. He said, yeah, my house was broken into. I had some jewelry missing. Okay, take the report. No suspects. There's no leads. You take the initial report. You document what was stolen. You have a crime scene tech come out there to process for evidence. And you do a neighborhood canvass, see if any of the neighbors saw anything, and you write your report. You're done. There's nothing more on a road patrol level that you can possibly do at this point. It's in the hands of the detective. So then they file their report, and it is forwarded to the investigator, the detective. Then he gets the case. He reviews it. He says, okay, Deputy so-and-so went out there, responded to burglary, got some jewelry missing. No luck on a neighborhood canvas. Nobody saw anything. We got forced entry to the back window. They did get a couple prints, but we're waiting on analysis on the evidence. So while you're waiting, you're going to say, well, okay, let's look at the jewelry. Let's look at the pawn shops in the area. Let's respond to the local pawn shops that we know that the criminals use to get rid of stolen property. Let's go out there and take pictures of it. Hey, this is all detective work. Go out there and say, hey, have you seen this jewelry? Anybody tried to pawn this necklace? It's described as this. It's a gold necklace. It's got this unique feature on it. Have you seen it? No, I haven't seen it. Okay, keep an eye on it. There's a lot of pawn shops to go make contact with. Now, there are programs which are really not going to get a whole lot. We're not going to talk about them a whole lot, but there's some different programs that pawn shops use when they receive merchandise to go in a database that we can search as well. But it's better and more accurate if you do it in person, and we have a good working relationship with them in our community anyway. See if they've ran across the stolen property. Then, of course, if they do, where we have right there, we have a lead. Now we can run down, investigate who's pawned the item. Where did they get it from? Where did they actually steal it? Did they get it from a friend? So there's a lot to do, and that's just one case. Now, a detective, he can work 30 cases, up to 30 or so cases at a time. It's a lot of meticulous work. And then after he does all that, then you write a report about everything you did. Now we use SmartCop. That's a database that all our reports are dumped into this one database and stored, and we can use and refer back to and add to and run different type of modus operandi programs to see if we can say if had several burglaries, if they all broke in the back window, use the same MO, we could search and say, okay, how many burglaries we have in this general area between this time frame and that time frame is all searchable in this program. Now, there's another unique thing about being a detective. There's only 3 ways to get rid of a case. I say get rid of it. It's to solve it, to make an arrest, to get it where you're done with that case. You can wash your hands of that case and move on to the next one. There's only 3 ways. You can clear it by arrest, which is investigate, develop leads, develop a suspect, and arrest the suspect and take him into custody. Cleared by arrest. Cleared by exception, say you develop a suspect, and you have to have a suspect to do this, and the victim says, oh, I know so-and-so, he's my neighbor, I don't want to prosecute him, I'll make him pay for my window, he can fix it, and I don't want to see him go to jail, I don't want nothing further done. Okay, well, the victim says that they have to sign a waiver of prosecution, that they don't want anything done. They don't want it to go any further than what we've done so far. If that's the case, you have to have a valid suspect to sign a waiver on that you're ready in prosecution on that suspect, and the case can be cleared by exception. The third way is unfounded. Basically, if you review the report and I'm just unable to establish the elements of the crime, the reported crime, then the case would be unfounded. So those are your 3 ways to clear a case. The other way, if you just can't solve it, cold cases, they just stay in an inactive status. You can never close them. You're always having to do follow-up and check on them. And See if there's any way you can develop any more leads or solve the case. Organized on centralized or decentralized basis. Centralized, operate out of one central office, considered specialist. Decentralized, each precinct has its own local detective squad. We talked about that. You have persons, you have property. You can also have different substations that detectives work out of. The idea that detective work is glamorous, exciting, and dangerous. In reality, most of the time, filling out reports, re-interviewing victims in person or by telephone. Some miss day-to-day contact with citizens and excitement of responding to crimes because you're responding to after the fact. There's no more in-progress crimes that you're going to be responding to, like road patrol. Most important, determine whether crime is solved. Not detective skill, but rather information officers obtain from witnesses. Improved investigation of past crimes. The technology has gotten better. Everything has gotten better. The progression of investigations has came a long way. It's based on agency established written priorities to ensure goals are achieved, as well as less waste and more efficiency. Basically, you work on your high profile cases first, try to get them as far as you can. While you're waiting on other things, you go back and work the other crimes when they're not high profile. Manage criminal investigations. Expanding role of patrol officers to include investigative responsibilities. We do that. When any of my guys take a report on my shift, we work the case as far as we can take it. I mean, we don't stop until all of our leads are exhausted. We try to do the best we can and the most work we can, because our ultimate goal is to solve the case on a road patrol level. What better thought than have your road patrol deputy take the report, run down any leads, develop suspects, and arrest and charge somebody with that crime. That's great satisfaction, and that's knowing that you worked the case from start to finish. Crime analysis and information management. Crime analysis, process of analyzing data collected in a police organization. Information management, computers have enhanced, already talked about that. GPS technology helps to monitor offenders. You got surveillance, closed circuit TV, cold case squads. So that means these have people dedicated to nothing but, these are detectives that do nothing but work cold cases and unsolved crimes. They spend all their time, focus all their attention on that. You can also use proactive tactics, decoy operations, blending officers dressed in civilian clothes to blend into an area, use them as decoys, stakeout operation, sting operations, and then civil liability and code enforcement teams. So there's different ways, proactive tactics you can use to solve crime. Another one is undercover operations, covert investigations involving plainclothes officers. Police undercover investigations include the obvious drug undercover investigations. That's the one that's most popular. Stings, decoy, prostitution, and white collar. Drug undercover investigations, 9 out of 10 local law enforcement agencies perform drug enforcement functions. There's 3 methods: infiltrating criminal organizations, fixed surveillance, and then buy bus. Chapter 11, Policing Community. The need for proper police-community relationships. That's where you're going to get all your information from, is the community. Who's doing what? Who's selling what? Who's into what? What's the word on the street? Everybody's heard that. Police and community need each other to help communities be safe and to solve crimes. They need community relations to help gather intelligence and information on who's doing what and what's going on in their community. The police opinion and the police matter. The role of police has always been somewhat ambiguous, easier for police to perform their duties if they have support of the public. Most of the public give favorable rates to the police. Whites and older citizens generally give better rating than African Americans and younger police. That's just a public opinion of the police. And of course, it's changed nowadays. I'm sure that the police have been in the spotlight here recently. Police in minority communities. This is all in chapter 11. We're just gonna touch on some of this stuff. African Americans comprise 13% of the population, have historically faced discrimination. After 1960s, police departments increased recruitment and hiring of African Americans. In 1996, 43% of African Americans said police brutality and harassment were serious problems where they live. Profiling. Hispanic Americans, composed of many different cultures, that suffers discrimination as well. Asian Americans, we do have Asian communities in the bigger cities, especially up north. We have Arab Americans and Muslim communities, same thing after 9/11, increased awareness needs of the Middle Eastern community. Muslims have asked law enforcement for protection because they fear hate crimes, people retaliating against them. And gays and lesbian, same thing. Community crime prevention programs, neighborhood watch programs, civilian patrols, civilian volunteer programs, home security surveys and operation identification, police storefront stations or mini stations, Crime Stoppers, mass media campaigns, chaplain programs, citizen police academies, which we have, community emergency response teams, CERT, police and business cooperation. Businesses have become increasingly involved in assisting their local departments. Private foundation, often used to collect donations. Businesses often have personnel, resources, and know how to get things done quickly and with less red tape than government can. We went through that real quickly. If you want to review there on chapter 11, you can. We're going to move on to chapter 12. Police operations, community policing. Corporate strategies for policing. Strategic policing represents an advanced stage of traditional policing using innovative techniques. Community policing, an attempt to involve the community, has active partners in crime solving. Problem solving, policing emphasizes that many crimes are caused by underlying social problems. Philosophy of community policing and problem solving policing. 1960s, police foot patrols abandoned. 1982, community policing began with Wilson and Keeling's article. Broken window model. Disorder creates fear. Certain neighborhoods have signals encouraging crime. 3 kinds of violence need to be reduced. Individual violence, civil unrest, and police brutality. Some benefits of community policing. Realistic acknowledgement of police functions, less dependence on criminal justice system, a more effective use of personnel, computers, and the internet aid and efforts. Problem-solving policing. In traditional policing, most of what police do, incident-driven. Problem-oriented policing focuses on problems that cause incidents. They have the SARA process: scanning, analysis, response, and assessment. Technology enhances analysis. Accomplishments of community policing. Overall crime rate decreased in the mid and late 1990s. Big successes in New York City. Surveys indicate public supports it, and cities where training of police officers and community policing is extensive. Victims prefer reporting incidents to police. Not all agree with community policing. Some believe new philosophies are merely one problem is defined as community, usually defined by administrative areas to allocate patrols, not usually defined by ecological areas with common norms, shared values, and interpersonal bonds. So basically, administrators want to pick, where they designate the people, how many people they put here, and they don't really agree with what the community wants. Negative effect on certain people are suspicious of intentions and what their intentions are. Biggest recent threat to community policing: current inability to keep departments fully staffed. Turnover. Turnover is a very big thing. It's a constant thing. People get hired, they go through the academy, go through FTO, get trained, work for a couple of years, and then move on. And a lot of it is a stress level. Very, very stressful job in law enforcement and working in this field. If that about covers 12. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or call me and let me know. I know we were kind of behind this week. And you don't have to write a paper if you missed this. Just review it and write on your assignment that I reviewed the PowerPoint, and you're good. That's all I require. Because I know this is weird times when we do this, these live sessions, and I'm on night shift, so my hours are going to be different than yours. So enjoy the week, and I'll talk to you next week.